Hello, Lean341. In today's lecture, we're going to talk about cardinal vowels, and this will be a relatively short lecture. So let's get right on to business. If you remember, we described vowels against 4 dimensions. So by definition, all vowels have an open manner of articulation because the airflow runs freely, right? Or as we learned, a higher degree of aperture, right? Now that we know what it is. Because the tongue does not actually touch the upper surface of the vocal tract anywhere, the term place of articulation is not really appropriate. Instead, vowels can be described in terms of the ways in which the tongue, body, and lips move. So, first, the vowels can be differentiated based on height of the tongue, right? The tongue body moves up for the high vowels such as e, I, u, and u, and down for the low vowels such as a, and a, right? And stays in the middle for the mid vowels such as a, then schwa, wedge such as o, open o, u, right? So we have mid vowels there. The frontal speech sounds are said to be anterior, and those towards back are said to be posterior. So we have anterior and posterior. So like anterior, posterior, right? Something like that. So we may be talking about E, which is maybe posterior a little bit, as in E, right? Or U that is anterior as well. So you might come across these terms. Then the tongue moves forward in the mouth and back in the mouth. Forward for the front vowels such as E and I and A and A and typewriter A and ash, and backward for the back vowels such as U, O, A, and A, right? The vowels wedge and schwa are said to be central, although wedge can also be a little bit towards the back, so it depends on which vowel space you're talking about. So this is a second dimension, frontness or front to back of the tongue body. Then vowels can also differ in roundedness of lips mainly. They can be rounded or unrounded. The rounded are u, o, and open o, like o, and the one low back rounded vowel as in aw, what a cute puppy. So that's one is rounded and the rest are unrounded, right? And lastly, vowels can be tense or lax based on their tenseness. These terms, tense and lax, are really just labels used to designate two groups of vowels that behave differently in English words. There are phonetic differences between these two groups, but they're not simply a matter of muscular tenseness versus laxness, which I will get to in a minute. So it's not just about this muscular effort, but it is included, of course. We know that the tense vowels are produced with more tension of the muscles, and the lax vowels with less tension in that respect. If we just look at first 2 dimensions, height and frontness, we can plot out vowels into quadrilateral vowel space, and this is a quadrilateral vowel space. The shape of the vowel space is not symmetrical because there is more room for tongue movement along the palate, that is higher up for high vowels, than there is for lower vowels. So more movement here, or more room for movement, and less room here down in the pharynx for lower vowels. So that's why this space is a quadrilateral. It's not really a square or rectangle for that matter. So you may see that the label here is close and open, close mid and open mid. This corresponds to high, mid high, mid low, and low, right? Vowels. So you might encounter these terms as well. If you do so, don't be surprised, because close vowels are produced with your jaw that is pretty much almost closed, right? Such as E, E, and open vowels are open, right? As their name suggests, ah, ah, in this respect. So the most open vowel, I guess, would be ah, and the most closed vowel would be E and U, for that matter, or because the jaw is not that open, that is, it's almost closed. And these corresponds to height, right? So you may encounter both terms, such as openness and height. We also do not receive a great feedback from the backs of our mouth. We do not have an accurate feel for where our tongue is. So especially since by definition vowels do not make contact at a specific point along the surface, so we do not feel where the where the tongue moves or where the tongue hits, right? It does not hit a specific target. We're much better at hearing vowel distinctions than feeling them. And a case in point are deaf people, for whom in reality it is really hard to learn to speak based on the feel, right? Because it's very hard to feel where which one is E, which one is E, which one is A. There are techniques, of course, but it is in reality really hard, and that's why we are describing these in some kind of relative terms, as a high, low, high relative to A vowel is E, of course, and low relative to O vowel is, for example, this A vowel, and so on and so forth. So all in all, when we use terms like high and back, or map a vowel as a point, we can put a point here instead of a vowel, we are more accurately describing what a vowel sounds like than where our tongues really are, or where our tongue really is. Though, as an approximation of relative tongue position, it's not that far off, so we are very precise there, almost precise. And we can measure this acoustically, which we will learn in this course. This is a figure that shows English vowels, and I added the barred I here. It's called barred I because of this bar, which is a back E. So you would produce E a little bit towards the back, E, right? And it is kind of central vowel. I will tell you something more about it in a minute. The schwa vowel is the most central one, and you can start from there when you're producing some vowels, so it's pretty much neutral. So when you say and then go towards U, so you can say and go from there in circle if you want to. So this is the vowel space of English vowels, and this is a breakdown of vowels based on the height and frontness. So there are other vowel features as we talked about. For example, there is rounding. In English, rounded vowels are U, O, A, and they are produced with rounded lips. The other English vowels are not really rounded. As I said, there is a phonetic difference between tense and lax vowels, but it's not merely phonetic there. You can think of lax and tense vowels, and especially tense vowels, as closer to the edge of the vowel space, while lax vowels are closer to the center of the vowel space, which I showed in the previous slide. Therefore, E differs from I in this respect. E is tense and I is lax. Schwa is the most lax vowel of all, as it is produced in a neutral position, as if when you want to say something, for example, I want to say this, right, and so on and so forth. Then from there you have I and upsilon, U and wedge, that demand less energy than tense vowels. I will bring up another distinction between tense and lax vowels in maybe 2 slides, right? So we'll see where this goes as well. Okay, tense and lax vowel, tense and lax vowels are predominantly found in Germanic languages, and they're not found in other world languages. So to that extent, right? It's a feature that is characteristic for Germanic languages, and for different historical reasons, and they're very hard for non-native speakers of English to hear and therefore produce. Sometimes I would produce thin instead of thin when I start talking too much or speaking for too long. This tells you more about my native phonological repertoire, which influences the way I produce these I and E, these tense and lax distinctions, because I don't have it in my language. So you might hear it here and there, that I am making this sort of mistake, right? And this also tells you that your brain, gets tired sometimes and sends the wrong signal to the muscle, and you produce something you didn't want to produce, and the motor memory fails. So we can get that as well, and it's very hard for non-native speakers to differentiate between the quality of the two. A case in point I will show is Sofia Vergara, who is a famous popular actress, and she starred in a show Modern Family. I will show you a clip of her mispronouncing tense and lax vowels and what humorous or comical consequences that has.
Hey, Jay.
Gloria. Hi. How are you?
Hi, Gloria. How are you? Oh, a beautiful dress.
I thank you, Phil.
Okay.
No,
Well,
wait, Phil. That's how she says Phil, not feel.
Huh.
Phil. No,
Well,
wait, Phil. That's how she says Phil, not feel.
Huh. Dress.
I thank you, Phil.
Okay.
Another distinction that you can make between tense and lax vowels is that there are 5 lax vowels that can be stressed in English. And I will now walk you through these counterparts. So you can have, for example, hid as a lax vowel, which is stressed because this is the only syllable there is, and heed as a tense vowel in English as its counterpart. Sort of a counterpart, right? Then you can have had and had, then hood and hood, and hard and hud, and maybe hoed and had. These are not really counterparts so much, but they are there, right? So the thing about these is that these are 5 lax vowels that can be stressed in English, but they do not appear at the end of a syllable. So you cannot have a word such as this one, he. Instead, you can have he, right? So this one would be a no-go, but he, would be good. Then there is also you cannot have in words of English, maybe somewhere in the pronunciation here and there when you are speaking in spontaneous speech, you can encounter these, but words are generally not composed of these when they're open vowels, only when they're closed vowels, and they can be stressed though. There is one word that recently emerged, maybe not recently, like 10-15 years ago, and that word is this one, and that's when you're saying meh, meh, for expressing lack of interest or enthusiasm about something. So that's more a word that you can transcribe like this, yeah, with an open e, right? And that's an exception in every language. There are so many exceptions. So this is more a phonological distinction that you get between lax and tense vowels. And as I said, these lax vowels do not appear at the end of a syllable. The lax vowels also have what we call an off glide, and that is a schwa. Schwa is lax. You can produce these, for example, instead of had, and we've heard that in some of the previous lessons, instead of producing them as had, you produce them as had, as if inserting a schwa a little bit there, like this, right? Had. Because it's difficult to sustain the lax vowels for a longer period of time because of their quality. And remember that we talked about this. I think it was we used an example had and an example bad instead of bad, which is quite characteristic for speech in English, right? And lastly, if you cannot distinguish between these, and that's specific, I'm specifically referring to non-native speakers, between these tense and lax vowels based on their quality, you might be able to distinguish between these based on their shortness or length in general. Tense vowels tend to be longer than lax vowels, and that's because the tongue needs more time to hit the target. So the tongue just needs to arrive. For example, for E, it needs to go high forward, more forward and higher than it needs to go for I. So from this neutral position of a schwa, it needs to go higher up, and it needs more time, and that's why they're often longer than their shorter counterparts. So you could rely on this length distinction in principle, but there is also height and frontness distinction, which we call quality distinction. And now that we know how to describe vowels, now that we are aware of these distinctions and of a vowel space where we can draw them, basically, you should be able to produce different qualities of vowels, and you will practice that throughout this course. So we saw how to map vowels onto the articulatory vowel space, which is also an acoustic vowel space, as there is correspondence there, which we will learn about sometime in the future. But the idea is that there is a vowel space, and the idea of mapping vowels was borne out by British phonetician Daniel Jones. Jones developed a system called Cardinal Vowels, Cardinal Vowel System, which would allow linguists in the field to describe the vowels of any language in terms that other linguists would understand. So we say that the cardinal vowels are reference vowels, and there is a set of primary and a set of secondary cardinal vowels. And I'll explain what reference vowels are in their their primary definition. So as I said, the brain behind the system of cardinal vowels is Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones was born about like 99 years before me, and this is a picture of him in his study, probably back in the days when researchers needed to read physical books and spend hours and hours in the library to find what they needed. So that's just a nice old photo. So besides cardinal vowels, he was very confident. I don't want to say conceited a little bit, for he said that cardinal vowels can only be learned from a teacher who knows how to make them, or from a gramophone record or tape recorder. Since the recordings that were his, and since the vowel system was his, he basically said to the world that if they want to learn cardinal vowels, they had to learn them through him. So come to the master, right? Yeah, and that was Daniel Jones. So in case you're worried about about whether you're going to master cardinal vowels, I'm going to give you a bit of phonetic history to you. So Henry Sweet was a phonetician who taught phonetics to Daniel Jones. He was one of the pioneers of linguistics and phonetics as sciences. Professor Henry Higgins, in George Bernard Shaw's play Pygmalion, was inspired by Henry Sweet, by this person here, and who did not like the play, by the way, for some reason. And then there is a movie called My Fair Lady with Audrey Hepburn that was an adaptation of the play. I would say quite obnoxious to the present day phonetics and phonology back in the 60s of the 20th century. But that was back in the day. And Henry Sweet taught Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones taught David Abercrombie, who was, I think, Scottish phonetician. David Abercrombie taught Peter Ladefoged, who was influential in the second part of the 20th century and who is an author of the textbook. Peter Ladefoged taught Sarah Dart. Sarah Dart was a student at UCLA, student of Peter Ladefoged, and Sarah Dart taught Stephen Winters, who went to Southern California University. And wait for it, Stephen Winters taught me, and I'm going to the University of Calgary, and I am finally teaching you. So there is a connection, direct connection between the master, Daniel Jones, and you. So we are going to learn these cardinal vowels perfectly.